Davis.
Lassiter, News Radio 970 WFLA.
8 minutes after the hour of 1 o'clock. Unbelievable. Our guest will be here as soon as they bring him in. For some reason, they just haven't brought him in yet. Welcome back. Hour number 2. You can bring in the guest any time now. The show's on its way. Welcome. It's the second hour for a Monday, January the 9th, 1989. The guest will be here momentarily. Momentarily, they will bring the guest in. And we will get on with the show. The guest's name, by the way, is Ben Alexander, an evangelist who writes a newsletter called Exposing Satan's Power. Please, Mr. Alexander, come in and sit down. Well, yeah, we're on the air, sir. Have a seat, if you will. They brought you in a little late. The show started already. I don't understand why they brought you in late, but that's okay. Move up, if you will. Be about 4 or 5 inches away from the microphone. Okay, great. You can put the headphones on or wait for a while. It's up to you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Is it Reverend or just Mr. or what?
No, just Ben Alexander.
Just Ben. Why just Ben Alexander?
Well, because Reverend, if we're going to be scriptural, Reverend is used a couple of times in the Bible, and it means the all-highest, and I'm not the all-highest.
Well, I don't really deal a great deal with the Bible. I was, do you have, in other words, do you have a divinity degree?
Oh, no, I am what you might say an evangelist, and I've been ordained as a minister, but that's about it.
Okay, but you do not have any...
No, I do not have any degrees. No, I left school when I was 14, 54 years ago.
Okay, and you have kind of devoted your life to exposing Satan?
Now, yes.
Now?
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Well, because going back in my lifetime, I was just a kid. I think you read my book, possibly.
No, I didn't get the book, but that's okay. No problem.
Sent it here. They asked me for it. Well, that's all right. When my father died at the age of 11, he wasn't my real father. I never knew my real parents. We lived in a slum in the East End of London, and he died screaming, "Please, God, don't let me die." He was terrified, and he had every reason to be that way, because he lived like most men live, as if though they have 1,000 years to live. He beat my mother, which of course she wasn't my real mother, and he was having affairs, and then he died when I was age 11. You don't really believe that he was afraid to die because he thought he was going to hell. He was just afraid to die because life was going to stop. I think both reasons. You don't believe in hell, Mr. Alexander, do you? Of course I do. Oh, come on. Did you ever pray for somebody not to die? Did you ever ask God not to take somebody? Do ever I ask God not to die? Yeah. I ask God to give them a long life. Do you go to a doctor yourself? Yes, and I believe in that. Then why are you prolonging going to paradise? Why are you trying to put off going to paradise? Because you don't believe in paradise, Mr. Alexander, any more than you believe in hell. Now, I know what I believe in, Bob. Oh, then why do you try to prolong your going there? Why do I prolong? Well, it's funny, but that's a natural thing. Christians want to go... I don't think it's funny at all, sir, if you're trying to tell people that there's a paradise and a... It's funny. Hell, I don't not funny, ha-ha, funny, peculiar, but we like to live because... There's always that question mark at the back of our mind. But as far as I'm concerned, I believe there is a place. You see, one of the things that I thought of in our ministry, we also fight pornography. And when you get a little baby, 8 months old, taken to a doctor, Dr. Elizabeth Holland, who we happen to know, and this baby has gonorrhea of the throat from a perverse father, I believe there is a place reserved for those type of people. Well, I'm delighted to hear that you're not in favor of that, but I would point out to you that even people who don't believe in your God are also opposed to, that's fine. Children as sex objects. I don't see what religion or heaven or hell really has to do with that. Well, actually, I would suggest to you, sir, that there couldn't conceivably be any kind of just, merciful, loving God who would permit that type of thing to happen to an innocent 8-month-old. Man does that. God doesn't do it. I didn't suggest that man or that God did it, sir. I suggested to you that God would not permit it to happen. God gives us a choice. I believe that God gives us a choice. Can you prove to me there's a God? Can you prove to me that there's not a God? But as far as I'm concerned... I beg your pardon, sir. You were the one who's making an assertion that something exists. Okay. I asked a legitimate question. Okay. I believe in a supernatural force, you see. That's what I believe. I believe that we are made in the image of God. We're not just flesh and blood, but we're spirit. Can you prove to me, though, that there is a God? just the very fact of life itself believes that...
Mr. Alexander, there's one answer to the question. The answer is no. Would you please tell me no? I can't prove to you, Mr. Lassiter, that there is a God. And don't tap dance around it. Tell me that you can. That's the answer, right?
Well, if that's what you want, that's fine.
You can't prove that there's a God, can you? I have to accept that there's a God on faith is the point I'm trying to get to.
Yes, we accept it by faith. That's why when I just look at the world itself and the creation itself, that there must have been somebody or something that has created this. It's not just comes from nowhere.
So I would have to, you cannot prove physically in any shape, manner, or form that there's a God. It's something I must accept on faith.
Yes, you accept it on faith.
Can you prove to me that there's a devil, sir?
I believe there is...
Or do I have to accept that on faith, too?
Well, you can see the influence of a demonic spirit, yes.
Well, come now, sir. What kind of influence? Can you prove to me that there is a devil, yes or no? Let's go back to the basics here.
Well, let me say this, that I believe there's a spirit world.
Well, I'm delighted to hear that you believe that. Perhaps we'll get into your beliefs a little bit later on. Can you prove to me that there is a devil, yes or no?
Only from what we see, a demonic force.
So, no, you can't prove to me that there is a devil.
See, I believe in the Bible, and the Bible clearly tells us, the Apostle Paul said, our fight in this world is not against human beings.
Again, I'm delighted, sir, to hear what you believe in, and I promise we will get to your beliefs later on in the program, but you can't prove to me that there is a devil. So it's something that I have to accept on faith, right? Just like God. I have to accept God on faith. I have to accept... Do you have any idea how ridiculous that sounds, Mr. Alexander, that I must accept that there's a devil on faith?
Well, perhaps to you, Bob, it seems ridiculous, but to millions of others it doesn't.
How do you expose Satan's power?
How do we expose it? The way we expose it is to bring... See, Satan doesn't always go around wearing red underwear, you know. That's one of the problems.
Well, we don't know what kind of underwear he wears. No one's ever seen him.
But...
we know no more about the kind of underwear Satan wears than we do about the kind of underwear God wears.
From the very things that people do, we know what is right and what is wrong. And as far as I'm concerned, I got that information from the Word of God, which is right and which is wrong.
It changes, though.
I don't think it changes.
Oh, I beg your pardon, sir, but it does.
That's fine, if that's what you believe.
It's not what I believe. You did mention the Bible. You have read it, haven't you?
Of course.
Well, then you know that there are lots of things in there that were an abomination in God's eyes that no longer are.
Such as?
Living in a house with a pointed roof. Using an ox and an ass to plow a field. I mean, I don't... Do you really think God's going to strike you down dead now if you use an ox and an ass to plow your field?
No.
I don't think so either, sir. But at one time, according to the Bible, he would have. So he changed his mind on that.
I think God can change his mind. Fine. I have no problem with that.
And of course, he changed his mind about living in a house with a pointed roof. And he changed his mind about this and about that. And you just told me that he didn't change his mind a few minutes ago. That you know what's right and what's wrong because God told you.
Well, I don't think he's changed his mind about rape and murder and some obvious things of that nature.
It's amazing people were against rape and murder long before the Bible was written. In societies that were older than the Bible. They were against it, too. Without they claimed utterly no divine revelation that rape and murder were wrong. They just knew it was.
That's right, and I didn't live those days, so I wouldn't know. But I believe that basically what I'm here is to warn people of the dangers of people getting involved in witchcraft and spiritism and things of that nature.
You believe in witchcraft?
Oh, absolutely.
Isn't it strange that basically only people who have a fundamentalist belief in God would believe in things like astrology and witchcraft?
I don't believe in astrology.
Oh, really? Astrology is mentioned in the Bible as one of those things that's real?
Yes, and God's against it.
Well, how could it be against something that isn't real?
Well, because I think it's a pseudoscience and it's an idol worship, and that's why he's against it.
Then God believes there's something to astrology.
No, he says it's
how can he be against something that's... It's kind of like saying God's against... blah, 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 blah. The blah, blah, blah is nothing, right?
God is against idolatry, and that's idol worship.
Idol worship? How is astrology idol worship?
Because it's a pseudoscience.
It's a pseudoscience.
And yes, because people would worship animals and things of that nature. It's worshiping another god. It's giving honor and credence to something which is idolatry.
I've been in a bar or two once or twice in my life, and I've had people come up to me and say things like, hey, what's your sign? But nobody ever said, well, you want to come over, you come back to my house and worship a crab? What do you mean worshiping animals, sir? Who's worshiping animals?
Well, the word worship means to give honor and credence to, and there are millions of people that do give honor and credence to this. You know that, Bob.
Well, you must. You must give honor and credence to it.
Not to...
Otherwise, you wouldn't be the least bit upset by it,
Not
sir.
to astrology. All I say is that it's a pseudoscience. It's false, and it's wrong.
And God doesn't like it.
That's what he said.
Well, how could God dislike something that doesn't exist? I can dislike you. I can dislike this coffee in this cup. I can dislike the telephone. I can dislike the microphone. But I can't dislike something that isn't here. I can't dislike something that does not exist.
But it's a practice. It's a practice of a false religion.
Well, sir, you say it's a false religion, okay? Something that isn't real. So, in other words, it's just babble.
Yes, if you like.
Well, babble is nothing. Babble is just sounds. How could God be against something that doesn't exist? How could God be against going blah, 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 blah? Babble?
No, he didn't say that. He said it is an idol worship, and he forbids it. You see, the Babylonians...
So there must be something to it.
Okay, the Babylonians and the Chaldeans were the first ones to invent astrology, not discover it, invent it. We have the clay tablets to prove this. They looked and they saw the constellations there, and they thought they were animal shapes, and that's where you get your zodiac. The Greek word is a circle of animals, and they believed there was a godhead head in this, and they worshipped that godhead. That's what they did.
Well, God said, I believe if I can remember these correctly, in the Ten Commandments, I am the Lord thy God, there shall be no other.
That's right.
So I guess in saying that, he was then conceding that there are other gods. He just didn't want you to worship them.
Man made those other gods, and God knew this.
Well, man can't make a god.
Well, he can make it in his mind.
Man can't create a god, sir.
Well, he creates a myth, and people follow.
He creates a myth. Couldn't Satan be a myth too? Created by man?
So. I don't think so.
Why not?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is, of course, because of the Word of God. And the other one has been, of course, of my own personal experiences in
Have you seen the devil?
Spirit world. I have seen psychic phenomena in the seance room. I'm sorry, your man asked me to bring you the book, which I did have purposely sent to you because you felt that it was necessary, and then you would have learned a little more about it. But
well, I'm sorry the book didn't arrive, but that's okay. We can explore these things.
It did arrive, but you didn't get it.
Oh, okay, I didn't get it.
To the station.
All right, fine.
But that's all right.
You have seen in the seance room?
Yes.
Tables move?
What really convinced me was my friend who I worked with for, I suppose, about 15 years in the seance room. Of course, this wasn't a paid thing. This is something that we did as a group because we sincerely believed that there was a hereafter, and we really thought we were speaking to the dead, but we were not speaking to the dead, which I found out when I became a Christian, and I could see why, but we were speaking to what I believe is demonic powers. And I believe there is a spirit force of demonic power, and that's what I was involved in.
Ever dawn on you that you were bamboozled like virtually everybody else who's ever watching this?
I was not bamboozled because these things did happen. And Bob, if you would have been there, you would have seen the same thing, and you know that they would have happened. No, it was not a fraud, and I admit there are frauds, and there are phonies. You see, what I'm basically trying to do is that there are millions of people getting hooked up with people like Shirley MacLaine, who's a celebrity evangelist, who are telling people that you are God, and going to these so-called psychics, which some of them may be genuine and some of them may be fraud, and living their life according to that. And I think that is wrong, and that's where I'm concerned.
Did it ever dawn on you that there's a real great connection between the people who, for example, would get hooked up with a Shirley MacLaine and people who take Christianity, fundamentalist Christianity, real deep serious? They're basically one and the same type of person. They just vacillate back and forth.
There's a possibility that
It's not a
happens.
possibility. It's really, there's a real strong connection there, isn't there?
Well, it does happen, yes.
Why do you think it is that the
Well,
average person doesn't get involved in any of this nonsense? That the average person scoffs at seances as well as Shirley MacLaine, as well as fundamentalist Christianity?
Well, you say nonsense. It isn't necessarily nonsense, because, you see, I think the difference between you and I don't know. Well, I'm pretty sure, maybe unless you're putting on an act, I don't know. But the difference is this, that I believe that man is not just flesh and blood, that he is a spirit too. And that's the difference. And I believe that there is a spirit world, because it's forbidden 150 times in the Bible to get involved in the forms of spiritism. And actually, that's why in the book, which I have here...
Well, sir, if you were going to write a manual for, a religion, I think that you would probably put in that religion, don't get involved in other religions, wouldn't you?
Well, what I'm writing is not to get involved in occult phenomena.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. If you were writing a manual to promote your religion, you would put in there, as well as, the do's and don'ts of the religion, you would also put in there, don't get involved in other religions, because you wouldn't want to lose any of your faithful to somebody else's religion, right?
Well, because I believe that the Bible is the Word of God, and that's the truth. And everything that is written there, for me, as far as I'm concerned, I believe this. It tells me how to live, and that's how I try to live my life.
Where in the Bible does it say you must accept the devil?
Where does it say you must accept him?
Mm-hmm.
It says that he exists. It says that. In many cases, in fact, John 8:44 says that the devil is a murderer and a destroyer and a liar. And I believe that.
Well, I know it also says in the New Testament that Jesus drove, spirits out of sick people, and those spirits went into pigs, and the pigs jumped into the water or whatever it was and drowned. You don't believe that?
Yes, I do.
It's astonishing. Jesus was insofar as medical technology and medicine is concerned, was ignorant. He believed that all illnesses were demons. You don't believe that?
Oh, no, he didn't say that. There is such a thing as natural law.
I beg your pardon. There's nothing in the New Testament that would indicate other than Jesus believed that all illnesses were demons, as did most people who were alive back then.
It didn't say that. People die, and people die from natural causes.
Mm.
And I believe this happens, and the Bible tells us that this will happen. But there was also disease.
Well, I know the Bible says a lot of things there, and it tends to contradict itself many times, but I would suggest to you that nowhere in the New Testament, and we'd be delighted to allow you time to find it, that nowhere in the New Testament does Jesus say anything other than he believes that illness is demon-inspired. And that, in order to cure people, you must drive the demons from them.
I think illnesses came when man fell at the very beginning of time.
Well, that's all fine and well. We were discussing that Jesus believed that illness was demon-inspired.
In certain circumstances, I would say that possibly it is.
But you didn't say in certain circumstances.
You see, for example, when man sins, for example, and man gets involved and passes sin on and passes sicknesses on, venereal disease, or even...
What about cancer? Is cancer from a result of sin?
I mean, when you talk, for example, of cancer, the laws of causes this. The science has found out that this happens. The same with earthquakes. They're natural laws. But as far as we are concerned as Christians, we believe...
I thought earthquakes were frequently caused by God to show his displeasure.
I don't think so.
Because one said so in the book. As a matter of fact, it even foretells of when I get angry, I'll
there will be earthquakes. He said they will happen. But he didn't say he did it for his pleasure.
I didn't suggest that he did say he did it for his pleasure, sir.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, personally, I believe that when man had a choice of which way he was going to follow, and man decided that he was going to follow satanic way, that's when I believe that these things happened. But man had a choice. But then God also gave us a Savior in the Lord Jesus Christ. And that one day that all these tears will be wiped away. This is my belief, Bob.
Satan's a pretty powerful guy, huh?
You bet he is. He
Like the most
is
powerful force in the universe.
As 2 Corinthians 4:4 says, he is the God of this world system.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe he is.
Supernatural power.
I see it, absolutely.
Can take all different kinds of shapes and forms.
Yes, I think that can happen too, especially when we start dealing with the supernatural, which was
As a matter of fact, Satan,
written in the book about
Satan is
ectoplasm.
as powerful as God.
No, he's not as
Well, what
powerful.
can God do that Satan can't?
Pardon?
What can God do that Satan couldn't do?
God could do many, many things.
For example?
Well, God will one day end this world, and Satan can't.
I don't suggest that he possibly could. If he has this kind of power.
He's God of this world system, and he's doing a pretty good job right now on people's lives.
If Satan can create, then Satan can destroy, right? I mean, God can create and God can destroy, right? Well, Satan creates.
No, he doesn't.
Oh, I beg your pardon, sir. You already told me that he did.
I didn't say that. When did I say he creates?
These diseases, sir. You know, like AIDS? What is AIDS? It's a virus. What's a virus? It's a living thing.
Yes.
Well, Satan must have created it. God couldn't possibly create something like that, right, sir?
I couldn't honestly answer that question.
I hadn't thought about it, had you?
No, but I know it's here. I know disease is here and everything else.
Well, don't you think it rather presumptuous of yourself to go trotting around saying, Satan exists, Satan this, Satan that, when you hadn't even bothered to sit down and think of something as fundamental as where did these bad things come from and who created them? They must have been created by Satan, because God couldn't possibly create something evil like AIDS.
Like I said, I believe that what happened according to God's word, I believe that when man decided he was going to live an evil and sinful life.
Yeah, I heard that before, sir, but now we're down to the nitty-gritty. God creates, Satan creates, correct?
I think Satan is responsible for, I would say, controlling man's mind. That's what I would believe.
Oh, then Satan didn't create the viruses and the illnesses to punish people with sin.
That's a difficult question for me to answer. I believe it is satanically inspired. How it happened, I mean, I really couldn't answer that question. You see, Bob, what I'm here, basically, when I was invited, and as far as I'm concerned, is I'm here to explain to people, to tell people the dangers of getting involved in...
Mr. Alexander, I'm going to be as blunt with you as I know how to be. This is the Bob Lassiter Show. You're here to take part in an interview. If you don't want to take part in that interview, then there is a door there, and you are free to leave anytime you want to.
Well, I'm just telling you what... Well, that's fine, then. Just go ahead.
When a man comes in and sits down across the table from me and implies that things like AIDS are made by the devil, then I think I think that it's only fair to examine this a little bit more closely. And
okay, that's fine. That's fine. I want you to understand that I do not know how these things happen. I know they exist, and therefore, if they exist, they must be satanically inspired. They cannot be God-inspired.
So they must have been created by the devil.
Possibly.
And the devil must have creative abilities.
I think he does have creative abilities. From what he has creative abilities of evil.
Doesn't the Bible say that God is the only one who can create? That's what makes him God. That's what sets him apart from everything else. He is the one that can from nothing create everything.
Yes, but God gave us choice.
What does that mean, sir?
Well, I think that God... I think
in terms of the question I just asked. Did God give us the choice to make things? Can you create things? Can I create things? No. I can't from nothing create something, can you?
I believe God could.
Well, apparently somebody else can too. Satan.
I think he is the creator of evil. That's for sure.
Satan?
Yes.
Who created Satan, sir?
God created Satan.
Then I guess God created evil.
No. He gave Satan a choice. Like he gives you a choice.
God didn't know what was going to happen?
Oh, I think he did.
Well, but if he knew what was going to happen in advance, sir, and went ahead and did it anyway, God created evil. That's a horrible thing to say about God. Aren't you ashamed of yourself, Mr. Alexander?
No.
You're not ashamed of yourself for blaming evil on God?
No, I didn't say I'm blaming evil on God. You're saying it. I believe what
No, sir, you're not being honest with yourself. You told me that God created Satan knowing full well what was going to happen.
All right,
you just won't be honest with yourself.
No, let me put it this way. God has given me a choice on which way to live. He's given me a choice to live a good life like he wants me to, or he has given me a choice to live an evil life, and I can easily live an evil life. He's given us all of that choice, and I believe he gave Satan that choice too, and Satan chose the other way.
Well, but God already knew what he was going to do, and he went ahead and made Satan anyway.
That I'm not certain about.
God doesn't know in advance what's going to happen?
Well, God does know, yes.
Well, then he knew.
But then you see, I think the whole emphasis, the reason why God created man was that he wanted fellowship.
He wanted fellowship?
Yes.
You mean he wanted people to hang around with?
Well, if you like to call it that way, he wanted a good nation.
He was lonely?
He wanted people. There are some questions that are very difficult to answer, Bob. I mean, they are really and truly extremely difficult questions to answer. I mean, I can't know exactly the mind of God outside what I read in his word.
Well, sir, what you can do is you can sit down and you can use the mind that God gave you, and you can ask some very basic fundamental questions like, what is the source of evil?
You know,
and come up with this incredibly, difficult corner in which to back out of that God must have created evil because God created Satan.
That God also told us that we as human beings do not know the mind of God.
I mean, can you begin to... I'm an agnostic, sir. I do not believe in the Christian God whatsoever. Okay. I find the whole concept to be rather silly. But can you imagine to someone who does have a love for a God, for a creator, how distraught that someone could be? That someone else could be so cavalier about his belief in God as to actually put himself in a box as to blame evil on God? Can you understand how that would make somebody angry?
Well, I can understand that. But as I said, that man does have a choice on which way he's going to follow.
Isn't it too bad that man frequently doesn't exercise that choice and go back and start with this God-Satan thing and exercise his choices as to reason and logic or folly and myth?
Like you said before, we accept our God on faith.
And you accept your devil on faith, too.
Absolutely.
Most important character in Christianity, isn't he?
Absolutely.
Most important. He's more important than God.
No, I didn't say he's more important. I didn't say he's more... He is our enemy.
Well, I beg your pardon, sir. He's your salvation. You take away the devil and you have no need for Christ, do you?
Satan is not our enemy, did you say?
No, he's your friend. You take away Satan and you're out of work. You and every other minister, sir, are out of work. You take away Satan and you have no need for salvation. If you didn't have Satan, you wouldn't have any original sin. If you didn't have any original sin, then you don't have any...
But he's not my friend.
Sir, he's your employer. He's your and every other minister's employer.
And every Christian's employer, for that matter, if that's what you want to say.
He's the keystone of the religion. You take away Satan and the whole thing crumbles. He's more important than anybody else.
No, I cannot accept that.
Well, did you ever stop to think about it? I know that right now you're having a difficult time accepting it. Did you ever sit down and say, well, wow, we take away this Satan guy, and it's all over?
And that's what it will be one of these days. And meanwhile, my job, and it's every Christian's job,
is to perpetuate the belief in Satan.
No, it's to perpetuate the belief in God and fight Satan.
So you're not fighting Satan, you're perpetuating him.
No, I'm not. I'm fighting him.
Sir, if you'd stop talking about him, he'd disappear tomorrow.
I don't think so. Because you'll see his work all over the place.
Ben Alexander, my guest evangelist, who writes a newsletter called Exposing Satan's Power, will return.
Hi, Tom Bodette from Motel 6 with some thoughts on the new year. The new year is always hard to get used to. It'll be mid-February, and I'll still be writing 1988 on all my checks. Well, the new year also brings with it the New Year's resolution, most of which go unresolved, but I got one here that's as easy to keep as a hamster. It's saving money at Motel 6, because for around $22, the lowest prices of any national chain, you get a clean, comfortable room at Motel 6. And since you also get free TV with movies and free local calls, you're not giving up that much compared to those fancy hotels. Oh, maybe some gold embossed stationery or a hermetically sealed shower cap, but somehow the money you save always seems to fill the void. Besides, if you want a shower cap that bad, well, take that money you save and go get a good one. Maybe even have it monogrammed, I don't know. Well, I'm Tom Bodette from Motel 6. Remember to write 1989 on your checks now, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Are you actually working out of here 12 months a year?
Yes.
Okay. And also you have something coming up, at the Forest Hills Christian Church?
That's this evening and tomorrow.
Okay, tonight, tomorrow night, January 9 and 10, 7 p.m., you'll be exposing Satan. Do you drive out devils, too, in your service?
No, I do not. I do not believe in exorcism.
You don't believe then the demons actually take possession of people?
Oh, I believe that they take possession of people, but I don't believe that we have personally the power to drive them out. In fact...
Didn't Christ give you the power as a
exorcist, I believe he gave the apostles the power, and then finally he gave us the person of the Holy Spirit. And my situation, my belief is this. First of all, these people go around casting out demons. They call every sin a demon, which can be nonsense, because demons are spirit beings, and there are people that are sick, and that doesn't mean to say that they're demon-possessed, but unfortunately we have a lot of people going around telling people that every sin is a demon, and that's wrong, and it gives people psychological problems, and even Christians sin. So they say that Christians are demon-possessed, and I don't believe that the Holy Spirit and Satan live in the same house.
Then sin and the devil don't have anything to do with each other.
They're not demons per se, but they are certainly influences. As far as sin is concerned, a person...
Well, then is Satan the source of sin? Yes or no on that one?
Oh, yes. I believe
all
Satan.
Sin.
I believe he's the source of sin, but
all
it doesn't
sin?
mean to say that it's demonic, that it's a demon inside the person.
Satan and God get together and talked?
I think they did at one time, until he was thrown out. The Bible does tell us that he walked with God at one time, and then it said he was thrown out along with he had a choice. That's what I believe. But going back to this exorcism, there's a lot of people who are in what they call the deliverance ministry, and I believe we need to be delivered from these people who are in the deliverance ministry, because they go around casting demons. Everything's a demon to them, and they cause people a lot of psychological problems.
All those people that show up jumping around, making faces, throwing up, they're just putting on an act. None of that's real.
They're putting on an act, all right. I believe in that, and this is what they believe, and I feel it's dangerous. And it's a shame that they make people do this.
You have in the back of your newsletter here, women between the ages of 13 and 25 used as breeders. The women are impregnated, and after birth, the babies are used as sacrifices. Since the birth is at home, there is no record of a life ever existing. Do you believe that?
I believe that, while we're talking about Satanism and regard to using babies as sacrifices in that particular...
Right, and women between the ages of 13 and 25. I don't know why not between 12 and 40, but it says here 13 and 25.
Well, this was some research that my research person did for me, and I believe that these things do happen.
Even though you have utterly no proof of it whatsoever.
Well, we have some... We do know, and I have met several women who were Satanists and have actually aborted their babies, well, not aborted their babies, actually used their babies for satanic...
Are you a citizen of the United States?
Yes.
Are you aware of the fact, sir, that as a citizen of the United States, if you have knowledge of criminal activity, you are to report that immediately to the police?
Well,
Did you report that?
As a matter of fact, what we did have, they did phone us, and we reported this to the police, and the police actually listened to the Satanists speaking about it. We've had some harassment, and
But did you report these instances to the police?
The incidences that we reported... Pardon? Well, I think it was known already that these things happened.
No one's ever been charged with any crime like that that I'm aware of.
I think people have been charged with murdering their babies.
I don't believe that there has ever been, to the best of my knowledge, in the United States of America, a case where a breeder woman was brought to trial for sacrificing her child to Satan. I don't ever recall of hearing such an instance.
Some people have admitted this. And this
Not to you, but no one's ever been brought to trial on it, sir. To you and other Satan chasers. No one. It's to the best of my knowledge. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anybody. There has never been such a case in this country. It's a rumor. But you have no problems, printing it in here as fact, even though you cannot point to any.
I think it has been reported. I really do. I can't give you the fact right now. Maybe I can get it at a later time, but I can't give you the fact.
Also, speaking here of cannibalism, the bodies of human sacrifices are boiled, eaten by the members, and the bones fed to hogs. Nobody knows.
This was a reported fact. The police found this man with fingers in his pocket in California, and he actually ate them. I think Mike Warnke, too, was involved in this.
I suspect that perhaps something like that has happened. I'm sure that's happened on numerous occasions.
Well, then in that
case, with Satan, you can't.
Well, then in that case, then they must have murdered the person before they could eat the fingers.
Was this person tried in a court of law?
I think he was in California.
Was he convicted in a court of law?
Yes, I believe he was. They caught him.
Do you believe that conviction was a good conviction? Do you think that should have happened?
Well, of course he should be convicted for murder.
Wait a second, sir. You have the second most powerful force in the universe, Satan, coming down and obviously influencing a mere mortal, making a mere mortal do something so despicable that no sane, rational human being could possibly do. And you want to take and punish this poor mere mortal who has been beset with this powerful force, the force that can create life?
These mere mortals do despicable things all the time. And
yes, on their own, sir, right? No, Satan? Of course the guy should have been put in jail or
they must be influenced by something.
What do you mean they must be influenced by something? Why not just influenced by themselves?
No, because I believe they must be...
Influenced by an illness, perhaps, insanity?
No. I believe they are influenced by something. I believe
by a supernatural force?
Yes, why not?
And so you want to punish a mere mortal who's been influenced by something so powerful that he couldn't possibly find it.
No, wait a moment. That person can if he wants to. It's quite interesting. I'm thinking here something that Jesus said. Out of the mouth speaks the heart. And what he's inferring here is that man is responsible for his actions, and I believe every man is responsible.
That's right, sir. Man is responsible for his actions, which is why it's so foolish to go running around telling people there's a devil, that people can then blame their shortcomings on. Like Jim and Tammy, like Jimmy Swaggart blaming it on the devil, like almost every human being alive blaming their shortcomings on the devil.
They can blame it on the devil. But they have the responsibility whether to do it or not.
Well, sir, I mean, come on. You don't have anywhere near the power the devil has, do you?
Me personally? Yeah. I believe that the Holy Spirit within me is greater than him that is in this world.
Yeah, but you don't have any power.
Not
even close to the devil's.
But the person that controls me.
The person that controls you?
Yes.
Wait a second, sir. I thought you had free will.
Well, because I've allowed this. I want this.
No, sir, it's because you haven't really thought. This is all gobbledygook. You've never really thought about the person that controls me, my free will. These are all contradictory, sir.
No, they're not. I believe there's a person that controls you, and I believe there's a person that controls me, but we have the choice. Who controls us?
Well, sir, that's a contradiction. If someone's controlling you, then you don't have a choice.
Well, whether we allow them to control us or not.
Sir. You as a mere mortal could not possibly have the power to drive away either the forces of good or the forces of evil. Because they're far stronger than you, right?
No, not necessarily.
They're not stronger than you. You're more powerful than God. No. You're more powerful than the devil.
Let me explain what I'm trying to say to you, Bob. What I believe is this, that there are two forms of spirit worlds. There's the spirit world of evil, of satanic spirit world, and there is also another spirit, the Spirit of God, the Holy Spirit, Jesus. I believe there are two forces, and man's mind is the battleground, and man chooses who he's going to allow to control him. That's what I believe, Bob. And these people, whoever it is, they have the choice on which way they're going to follow and on whom they're going to follow.
How many seances did you attend, by the way?
Hundreds of them.
Most of them were real.
I would say that there were many of them that were false. Yes. But then when I got involved with this particular group, we were a private circle. We started off with a Ouija board. We went into automatic writing.
Ouija boards?
I believe, absolutely. I believe there is absolutely no power in a Ouija board, but there is power in the person who plays with it. And I believe that there could be a passive submission on that part of that person to allow himself to be controlled. And regretfully, I've received hundreds and hundreds of letters and, of course, my own experiences of people playing with Ouija boards. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here, because we have had kids play with the Ouija board. And what has happened in many cases, for some reason or another, the Ouija board, it usually starts at a slumber party. The kids start playing with it, and they're goofing off, who am I going to marry, and all that. And then something happens, and this has happened literally scores of times, where suddenly one of the perhaps little girls or the boy gets a message and says, "You will die," and gives them so many years and a birth date. And that kid lives in fear for all those years, and then suddenly...
A good God-fearing child.
Pardon?
A good God-fearing child.
I'm not talking about any particular child, in whether it's God-fearing or otherwise, but what happens very often, that kid sometimes takes his life and makes it a self-fulfilled prophecy.
It would have to be a God-fearing child, sir, because only people who believe in supernatural things would believe in a Ouija board.
Not necessarily.
That's one of the things. It's one of the things that seems to go over the head of the good Christian when he's so worried about Satanism. The only people who believe in Satan are people who believe in God. Did you ever notice that?
Well, people believe in God. The devil believes in God himself.
Oh, sir, but
it says.
Let me try it again. Did it ever dawn on you that the only people who believe in Satan are people who believe in God? As an example, sir, I would point out to you there is no great Satanistic cult in Moscow. Hey, godless people! You think they'd be right for Satan, right?
No. Well, he's already got the very fact that they don't believe in God. That's all he wants, because he doesn't want them to believe in God.
Well, he would have to. I would assume, keep his hand in it, making sure that they didn't believe in God, right?
Well, he's doing a good job out there.
No, sir.
But then there are others that do believe in God.
There are no witches. These are phenomena in Christian countries, sir, not in godless countries or Muslim countries or Hindu countries.
They are all over the world.
Yes, sir. Wherever you find Christians, you will find witches and goblins and ghosts and ghouls.
No, you'll find it where there are no Christians.
1:51 the time. Ben Alexander, my guest. We'll check in with Charlie Davis for the WFLA News Brief, and when we come back, we'll open the phones. It can be the first time. I'm serious. The first time I ever lit a cigarette, it was in the bathroom, the second-floor bathroom of the house at 128 Maple Avenue. I was 8 years old. I couldn't even stand the heat of the match. I had to put the cigarette down on the basin and just hold the match to it. It was a Camel Regular. It was the first cigarette I ever smoked. And I was 8 years old. That's 35 years ago. 5 years later, when I was 13, I was smoking 2 packages of cigarettes a day. And 2 months ago, I was smoking anywhere between 3 to 5 packages of cigarettes a day. I don't smoke at all anymore. It was as easy could be. Without any gimmicks, without any hypnotism, without any staples in my ear. I went through the Quit for Life program at the Stop Smoking Center in Clearwater, Florida. If I can do it, you can do it. You see, I'm one of those people that could readily say, hey, quitting smoking is easy. I've done it numerous times. Well, I hadn't really done it numerous times, but I had done it once, and very successfully, for about 9 months. And then I started smoking again, and I said to myself, as much as I want to quit smoking, I don't ever want to fail again. So unless and until I can figure out why it was that I started smoking again, I'm not going to smoke. And then I ran into Dr. Robert Sobel. He helped me find out why I started again. And now that I know that, it was easy to quit. 2 months, no strain, no pain. Dr. Robert Sobel, the Quit for Life program at the Stop Smoking Center in Clearwater. Only 2 one-hour sessions, and it only costs $37.50. You can't go wrong. 787-5530. The number, 787-5530. If I can do it, you can do it. 787-5530. My guest in studio, Ben Alexander. Did you do any thinking during the break when I pointed out that the only people who seem to believe in devils are people who believe in Christ? That they don't really have devils other places?
The only thing I was thinking of, and I always express my thoughts, is how I could change your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And more than that, I just have concern for whoever I speak to.
Do you think there's any possibility that there's some Satan inspiration sitting on the side of the microphone? I mean, I'm asking some real tough questions, aren't I?
Yes, I do.
Probably Satan's putting me up to it?
But you don't believe it. You see, because when you say that you don't believe in God and there is no God...
Sir. No.
Didn't you say that?
No, I said I don't believe in your God. I said I was an agnostic. And I don't believe in the Christian God of the Bible. That to me is a relatively silly,
then you believe
very uncomplimentary.
Then you believe in a God.
I believe in a universal force of some kind. Yeah, I look around and see the babies and the flowers and the trees and the same things that you see, and I certainly have no explanation for them. And so therefore, I would assume that they're in this humongous universe that is larger than I can even begin to comprehend. I would have to assume there is some form of supreme.
These terrible things that happen are evil?
Oh, well, evil, so it depends on what you want to mean by evil. Evil in that they are wrong, they are bad, of course, sir, but that they are the direct result of some evil force forcing good, nice human beings to go out and do despicable things? No, that's a silly concept to me.
Who said that they're good human beings? These are evil beings that have allowed themselves, but I feel that they have a choice.
Sick people, sir. They're sick people that no longer have any compassion or love for other people.
Okay, but then something must have controlled that thought, because
a sick mind.
But then people have also changed too.
Well, you see, sir, if there was this evil force that controlled that mind or made that mind do these bad things, then there is no loving God. Because a loving, just, merciful God could not permit that type of evil in the world, doing dastardly things to his creations.
Well, what I believe is that God gave him the choice to do evil.
So that maybe that sells down at the Forest Hills Christian Church, but it doesn't sell here with people who think for themselves, because it just doesn't answer the question. It doesn't answer the question about the 12 million Jews shoved into ovens. It doesn't answer the question about the 8-month-old baby who was sodomized, and on and on and on. It answers none of those questions, sir, for thinking people.
Well, we cannot blame God for that.
Well, you better blame him for it, sir.
No.
Then who are you going to blame?
We blame the person that did it, who had the free choice of what they were
doing. Who was influenced by the devil that the God made ever so long ago.
Absolutely.
Because, sir, no matter how you want to cut it, it goes back to God.
I can't blame God for that. I blame
because you don't want to, sir.
Because I know that I have a good God, and he gave us choice.
This God that you've never seen, that you've never had any contact with whatsoever. The only thing that you have ever, what you're telling me, have ever had any contact with is the devil at a seance?
I had contact with the devil at a seance, yes, certainly.
Ben Alexander.
It's demonic.
Ben Alexander, my guest, will continue the conversation in the next hour, and we will go to the phones at that time. 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in Pinellas.
Harvey invites you to join him on News Radio 970 WFLA, weekdays at 8:30 a.m., 12:05 p.m., and 5:35 p.m. Catch him on Saturdays at 12:05 and 5:30, right here.
News Radio 970 WFLA.
I'm Charlie Davis.
Lassiter, News Radio 970 WFLA.
7.5 minutes after the hour of 2 o'clock, Ben Alexander, evangelist, exposing Satan's power, in studio with me. If you'd like to join in on the conversation, 990-9352 in Hillsborough. That's 990 WFLA. In Pinellas, 461-9352, 461-WFLA. Clearwater, hi, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hi, hello, Bob.
Hi.
To your guest, what is his name?
Ben Alexander.
Alexander. When you mentioned clay tablets, the Babylonians, and astrology, why didn't you tell the rest of the story about how those clay tablets prove that everything in the Bible was copied from the far more ancient religions? And as far as God's playmate, that devil, you know, if you read clay tablets, that he was copied from Mot, the Canaanite. Lord Baal was the rain god in charge of the rain for the grain and the fruit. And the Canaanites gave him Mot, who was the killer of the fruit and the grain. He was the bringer on of droughts. So the writers of the Bible copied Lord Baal. They used the Lord for their Lord. They used the name Lord. They also changed the name Mot to Satan. So it's just a copy of Lord Baal and Mot, who was Lord Baal was the good rain god. Mot was the destroyer of the grains. So why don't you tell the rest of the story, how the Bible is...
Well, you've already repeated that once. Let's see what he has to say.
Well, the Bible didn't believe in astrology, and besides that...
I'm not talking astrology. You said you read clay tablets. Why don't you tell the other part, how the Bible is full of copy material?
Ma'am, let's let him answer.
First of all, I didn't say I read the clay tablets. This we have in the museums that they came where we have these clay tablets. But the point was that it's a pseudoscience because in those days they had the 12 constellations
Get off of astrology. Talk about Mot and Lord Baal. That's a copy of God and the devil. The same takeoff. The Bible writers used Lord Baal and Mot.
Hold on, dearie, hold on. Is there anything that you wanted to respond to this woman with at all?
The only thing I can say of is that the 12 constellations have been proven a fraud because there are more constellations they've discovered since then. So the whole thing was a pseudoscience.
990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in Pinellas. If you'd like to check out the devil with Ben Alexander. So you do believe in witchcraft?
Oh, of course.
You believe in calling up dead spirits?
I believe in calling up evil spirits.
Oh, you can't call up a good spirit, only an evil spirit?
Absolutely.
And why do you think that is?
Because as far as I'm a believer in the Bible, and the things that I was involved in showed me that you're dealing with a spirit force which is forbidden, and the problems that it later caused in my life and in the lives of many people.
And you believe in sorcery?
The Greek word for sorcery is pharmakia. That's where we get our root word pharmacy from, and that has to do with drugs, marijuana, LSD, and heroin, and drugs of that nature. And
all things that God created, by the way.
And God forbade people to get involved.
What does it say? Don't smoke, marijuana. Come on.
It doesn't actually say the words don't smoke marijuana, but what it does talk about that sorcery. It's a misuse of these things, and God told us, forbade us to do it, to use it.
But he was apparently okay. He was okay with alcohol. He liked alcohol.
It didn't say that.
I beg your pardon. Didn't remember the wine at the wedding?
Yeah, but that doesn't.
Even Jesus is a winemaker.
Well, there is.
They didn't drink that wine to quench their thirst, sir.
Yes, but it wasn't. What's the word I'm trying to find here now? I missed it. I don't think that it was fermented. That's
you
why.
Don't think you don't want to believe it was fermented, because then you'd have a real tough time with Jesus making the wine.
He tells us not to get involved in that type of wine. Now that is distinctly in the Bible.
I know it's also distinctly in the Bible that he made it. I know where in there's like grape juice. It says wine. We know what wine is. We know what wine was back then. We knew why people drank wine then.
I don't think it was fermented. I think there's a difference there. You can just...
isn't this the pick and choose Bible that you're talking about?
No,
you believe what you want to believe, you don't believe what you don't want to believe?
No.
And whatever's convenient?
It does say in the Bible that you're not to drink the alcoholic, and when you freshly squeeze it, it's not alcoholic.
Do you believe in werewolves?
I'm sorry?
Do you believe in werewolves?
No, I don't believe in werewolves personally.
Vampires?
No.
Why not?
So I just don't believe in them.
You don't want to. That's kind of too silly for you.
Not necessary. I believe, for example, in something which we haven't dealt with lately at all on this particular program, and that is ectoplasm, which causes poltergeist phenomena.
Which causes what?
Poltergeist.
Poltergeist. Ghosts.
Well, poltergeist phenomena is a spirit, yes, and in fact, I have seen this phenomena in operation many, many times.
Well, if you believe in ghosts, why not werewolves? I mean, what's the problem? Well, why not guys getting hairy and growing teeth around the full moon?
Well, because I just don't believe in that.
Do you believe in the full moon? Does evil things happen around the full moon?
Not necessary, no.
Not necessarily.
No.
But you certainly wouldn't discount it.
Personally, I think it doesn't matter whether it's a full moon or there is no moon at all. If people want to do evil, they'll do evil, never mind when the moon is there.
Mm-hmm. Not too fond of chiropractors either.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. I believe in chiropractors, yes.
I beg your pardon, according to your newsletter here, some chiropractors ain't exactly,
certain chiropractors, certain. But there are many chiropractors that are absolutely excellent.
There are many. Majority are excellent?
I would say so.
3/4 of them are excellent.
I can't make a guess at it.
Why not? You just did.
Well, I can't make a guess of a percentage. I have been to chiropractors.
Overwhelming majority of chiropractors are.
As far as I'm concerned, they're good.
Oh, what about these other guys? What's the problem with them?
Because those that I have personally met have actually believed in witchcraft.
Believed in? You're a guy that goes to seances, and you're going to put down a chiropractor because he believes in witchcraft?
No, I didn't say that.
You believe in witchcraft, sir?
No, practicing witchcraft. There's a difference there.
Oh, wouldn't going to a seance be, in essence, practicing witchcraft?
Well, absolutely. But then, of course, that's what I did, and I don't do it anymore. Because it's wrong.
So you were one of these, you were, in essence, a Satan worshiper.
I wasn't thinking that I was involved in Satan worship. I thought that I was worshiping God.
Mm-hmm.
There's a way that seems right unto man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. And you can be sincere, and you can be sincerely wrong.
Do you see that connection I was starting to work on right before the newscast about the only people who seem to believe in Satan are people who believe in God? And if they just vacillate back and forth between the two?
Well, we know that as far as Christians are concerned, we believe there is a Satan.
Well, why doesn't Satan seem to manifest himself in people like me? I mean, I don't worship nothing.
Well, how
I don't sprinkle powdered bones over my left shoulder. I don't howl at the moon or pray to crabs or anything like that.
Well, remember what I said earlier on in the show. I said Satan doesn't go around wearing red underwear. He comes in other ways.
Satan, a pretty swift guy, pretty smart man. Well, being wherever he is, Satan.
I think he's good at doing what he does.
Good at doing what he does. Well, okay, let's see if we can't follow this one down the road here a piece, Mr. Alexander. What's the average person that you encounter who's involved with Satan? What does that person do? Truck drivers, bartenders, that kind of stuff?
It could be anybody. It could be attorneys. It could be anybody.
But just average people, right?
The average person, certain people, yes.
Mr. Alexander, something in the neighborhood of 3 million people at one time or another have heard what I have to say, have heard my radio program in this market or other markets. 3 million people. Only a handful of individuals ever get to talk to that many people. Right this instant, statistically, we're talking to something in the neighborhood of 25,000 people. Mm-hmm. In the last hour and 16 minutes that you've been on this program, we've talked to something statistically in the neighborhood of 100,000 people. I do this every day, day in, day out, 3 hours a day. Now, Mr. Alexander, if you were Satan and you were trying to get your message out, and time is of the essence here because the Savior's coming back any day now, and you gotta steal as many souls as you can possibly steal from them. Who are you going to mess around with, sir? A guy that talks to millions of people, or somebody that drives a truck and drives a motorcycle and drinks too much beer?
I'm going to talk to everybody.
Exactly. You're going to go after Lassiter, Mr. Alexander. Why doesn't Satan come after me instead of these poor souls who were raised in the Baptist church and now have tattoos up and down their arms and think they're worshiping Satan out in the woods drinking beer?
Yeah, but how do you know that Satan's not using you? When you absolutely deny him, he would like you to do that. That's one of the...
Well, sir, I don't do evil and I don't advocate evil.
Yes, but the point is, it isn't that a case that you're actually doing evil. You are saying he is a myth, and he likes that. You see, one of the biggest dangers of Satan is his inconsistency.
Oh, really? Isn't that convenient?
Well, that's a fact.
Oh, it's a fact. I see. Something that isn't a fact is a fact.
Well,
how can you have a fact about something that's not a fact?
No. You say it's not a fact. I say it is a fact.
Well, you can't prove there's a Satan, sir. You told me at the beginning of the show that I had to accept Satan the same way that you would have me accept your God by faith, which is one of the silliest things I've ever heard in my entire life.
Apart from faith, from the actual things that do happen.
See, I must accept Satan, right, sir? In order to be saved, I would have to accept Satan.
That he exists.
Yeah. In order to be saved and go to heaven, I would have to accept.
I think you have to accept Christ. That's what you have to accept.
Oh, I'd also have to accept Satan.
You'd have to accept him.
Oh, no, sir, because Christ accepted Satan. Christ accepted Satan, right?
No, he didn't accept him.
Well, of course, he acknowledged his presence.
He acknowledged his presence, yes.
Right, so Christ believed in Satan. So I would have to believe in Satan in order to go to heaven with Christ. Sir, isn't that one of the most silly things you've ever heard in your entire life?
It's the way you're putting it.
No, it's not the way I'm putting it, sir. It's the way it is.
The point
is... It's the way that you have, for however many years you've been on this earth, tried desperately to avoid putting it.
I believe that there is a Satan, and he...
Well, of course, sir, you have to believe there's a Satan. Again, this is what we were talking about before the news. He's the most important figure in your religion. You take away Satan, and you've taken away your religion.
No, I don't think so. I think he's a fact.
Sir,
he exists.
Sir, well, let me take you back to Genesis, first page of the book. Actually, I guess it's the second page of the book. Where the serpent, Satan, appears and tempts Eve to eat the fruit from the tree of knowledge, et cetera, et cetera. Remember that?
Yeah.
Second page of the book?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if that hadn't happened, sir, then there wouldn't have been any original sin. And had there not been any original sin, then there wouldn't have been any sin. And had there not been any sin, then there wouldn't have been any need for a Savior to come and wash away your sin. Right, sir?
Right. But you see...
So if you didn't have Satan, then you wouldn't have Christianity. He's the most important figure in it.
He is the most important enemy in it, yes.
Most important figure.
But you see, when that second page you're talking about, that's when man was given a choice.
Well, great, sir, but that still doesn't take away the fact that no devil, no Christianity. He's the most important player.
Okay. Then he's the most important player.
Thank you. Sarasota, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
When God or Satan told Abraham to go slay his son, to me that was just murder. And
that was God, sir.
Is that the reward of God by that act? I don't quite understand it. To me, that's attempted murder in any shape, form, or way. What does Mr. Alexander feel about that, obeying God's command on that?
I believe that God knew that he wasn't going to murder his son. God knew this beforehand, and he was testing the faith of Abraham, and God did eventually supply the sacrifice, which was the ram.
Mr. Alexander, God already knew what Abraham was going to do, didn't he?
That's right.
So that he wasn't testing his faith. I mean, how come...
He was testing Abraham's faith.
Mr. Alexander, there's a light bulb up there on the wall. If I turn the switch and that light bulb goes off, and I know for a fact that it's going to come back on the next time I turn the switch, I'm not testing the light bulb, am I? Because I know it's going to come on.
That's faith.
No, it's not faith, sir. If I have
faith that it's going to come on.
No, sir. If I have absolute proof that it's going to come on, I know beyond the shadow of a doubt it's going to come on.
Fine, yes.
Then I can't possibly be testing the light bulb. So God would have known absolutely, positively, for sure what Abraham was going to do. He wasn't testing Abraham, sir. It's a bunch of malarkey.
No, I believe Abraham had he had the free will.
Well, whether or not he had the free will, sir, God knew what he was going to do.
That's correct.
So he wasn't testing him. How can you test something when you know the outcome? That's not testing.
Abraham was the one that didn't have the pre-knowledge.
Okay, let's see if we can put it into another simple, easy-to-understand analogy. I have a deck of cards, okay? Here's a deck of cards, playing cards, right here in my briefcase. I keep these around sometimes because the phones get slow, and I play solitaire until the phones pick up. The third card from the top I will show you is an 8 of clubs, okay? Let's put the cards down here on the table. And I'm going to say 1, 2. The third card here is an 8 of clubs. Isn't that amazing, sir? No, it's not amazing because I knew it was the 8 of clubs, right?
Well, you knew it, yeah.
Okay, well, if God knew that it was the 8 of clubs, or in other words, if God knew that Abraham wasn't going to kill the kid, it certainly wasn't anything astonishing, was it?
Well, I believe that Abraham didn't know, and Abraham trusted God implicitly, and it was a test of Abraham's faith, not of God's.
Well, it was already predetermined. Made no difference what Abraham believed or didn't believe. It was already predetermined.
I think it makes.
Am I still in the air?
Yeah, sure.
If Abraham should have said, if that be your dastardly deed, then be by your hand, not by my hand, because your kingdom is not worth murder. But he said, all right, I'll go to your special place and I'll kill. That's how I see it. And that's wrong, in my opinion.
Well, I think sometimes one of the problems that we're having here is that we are dealing with the infinite, and
you believe in the Ten Commandments, Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
If God came to you tonight and said, I want you to kill your wife, I command you, I order you to kill your wife, what are you going to do?
I don't believe God would tell me that now. There was a special reason why God...
Well, suppose he did, what would you do?
Well, I wouldn't kill my wife, obviously.
You would not obey God?
No, but God does not speak to us that way. He speaks to us through a different...
Has God ever spoken to you?
Only through His Word.
Well, then He hasn't spoken to you. I mean, you don't know how God speaks to people.
Well, the way I believe God speaks to people is through His Word.
Port Richie, Port, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah? Am I on the air?
Yeah.
Hello, Bob?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Bob, I'd like to say something to this guy who comes on and says God's a he, and God, he knows what God does this, and God does that. First of all, God is not a he, okay? For all you people out there, a he and a she is a male and a female. Now, God is not a male, and He's not a female, because male and female are of physical origins, all right? And you cannot have a God of a physical origin, okay? So all this stuff about God being
Wait
a
a second, why couldn't you?
Pardon?
Why couldn't you?
Well, God doesn't have a penis, and a male has a penis.
How do you know He doesn't?
Because it's a physical thing, a penis, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And God is a spiritual. Now, insofar as God, what God is and everything, no one knows absolutely sure.
Well, you seem to be pretty sure.
Well, I wrote the story, The Absolute Truth of Life.
Uh-huh.
And in the story, I tried to show people...
You wrote the story, The Absolute Truth of Life.
Yeah, and
you're trying to push your book on my show?
No, I'm not even selling anything. I give it away free to anybody who wants it. I'm not even...
Really, not on my show, you're not.
No, but I'll send you a copy. So
I don't want a copy of it.
Well, you're going to get one anyways, because I'm going to send it to you. And I want you to read
it.
Huh?
I'll throw it away. I won't
read it first and then throw it away. I
got too much crap to read.
This isn't crap. This is the absolute truth of life. And what I'm trying to tell people is what's right and what's wrong. Not exactly what's wrong, but insofar as what's right.
You're so smart. What are you living in Port Richie for?
Why am I living there?
Yeah.
Because I live on wherever I want. What the hell has that got to do with anything?
I just said if you're so smart, what are you living in Port Richie for?
Because I have no money to live anywhere else, but that has nothing to do with...
Well, wait a second. If you got the secret to life, you ought to have some money.
Pardon?
You have the secret to life, you ought to have a few bucks, wouldn't you think? Or shekels as the case may be.
God is not interested in money. In fact, money is the evil of the world. The way we took this planet, see, this is our
paradise. Well, you're not God, though, right?
This is our...
You're not God, right?
Pardon?
You're not God, are you?
In a sense, we are in the same as God, because, see, when we die...
Well, you are God.
No, we're not God. God is, as humans define God.
Now, do you really think that God would have created Port Richie?
God didn't create nothing on this planet. God gave us this paradise. This is a paradise. Our Garden of
Eden. Port Richie's a paradise?
This Earth. We made the world into Port Richie, Russia, United States.
Have you ever seen some of the portions of this Earth? They're pretty damned ugly.
We did it.
Most
It's not God who did it. Would you people quit blaming God?
I beg your pardon, sir, that a lot of the horrible, horrible places on this earth have nothing whatsoever to do with mankind.
Oh, yes, it
It's
does.
a very flawed planet. You see, the planet,
it's nature,
the planet gives
right.
too much water here, not enough there, too much sunshine here, not enough
But this
there.
is our paradise. Think about it. There's water somewhere for somebody to give to someone who don't have water. And that's what God's all about, helping each other.
Well,
we don't do that.
I'd say, sir, if you were so damn smart, you wouldn't be living in Port Richey. Tampa, you're on there at 970 WFLA.
Yeah, I'd like to ask the guest, I believe in the kind of non-intervening God that was portrayed in the George Burns movie pictures, but he believes in the intervening God. So if God intervenes, why wouldn't he intervene to stop evil is one thing. And then another thing, too, is during the election campaign, I heard a lot of preachers tell me it was my Christian citizenship to vote, and then proceed to tell me either directly or indirectly, or either openly or imply, that I should vote for George Bush. So am I going to go to hell because I did not vote for George Bush?
You don't have to answer such a stupid question. Don't worry about it, Mr. Alexander. Tampa, you're on there at 970 WFLA.
Yeah, this is for Bob. Am I on the radio?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just wondering, why isn't it that you can't accept the fact that men are not robots and that they're created in God's image, right?
I beg your pardon, sir. I'm the one that runs around saying man is not a robot.
Well,
you're the guys who want to put man in the robot category.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Jump in anytime you want to, Mr. Allen.
No, apart from that, one of the things that I'm concerned about was when I sent you the book, which you never got hold of, the main issue that I was involved in speaking on was the occult, on the people getting involved with Shirley MacLaine.
I don't believe in the occult either, Mr. Alexander. I think the occult is equally as silly as a god in a long robe and a flowing beard.
But there are a lot of people there that are involved in the occult, and I was hoping that we could possibly get onto that subject, if it was possible.
Well, it seems to me, sir, that anybody who believes in silliness we should deal with.
Well, I don't think
witchcraft and gods and with flowing beards.
I wish it was that, but it isn't that way. That it's silliness, but it isn't. It's a fact of life.
Well, sir, when I live in a world where there are terrible, terrible things going on. For example, some madman building a chemical factory in the desert in Libya, possibly, or the starving children in Ethiopia, all that kind of good stuff. When I live in a world with all of these shortcomings, and I open up my book and I see that God cares whether or not I go home and masturbate tonight. And that's one of the most important things to him. And he overlooks all of these horrible, horrible, horrible tragedies. Then your God doesn't exist, sir. I'm insulted to think that God cares whether or not I masturbate and can overlook all of this other stuff.
God cares about a lot of things, but it's
whether or not I masturbate.
But it's these people who build these things, like the chemical plants to kill and murder. God cares about that. He cares about everything. It's a real fact of life, and God does care. And what we're trying to do is to tell people what God cares about, not to kill. But what I was just trying to tell you just now is that millions of people are involved in this psychic phenomenon. It's a fact. And I was hoping that I could talk to people who were involved in this.
Well, sir, when you come on the radio and say, hey, I've been to a seance and I talked with evil spirits and the table moved, and you, sir, are the one who are promoting psychic phenomena. Because I would say to you, sir, that you experience no such thing because no such thing exists.
Oh, yes, it does. Oh, yes, it does.
Sir, you were had by a charlatan.
No way, because I have... No way, because if you knew the whole story, which you don't, and if I was in your position and we were changing over, I would be saying that. But if you had seen and been involved what I had been involved in, no, it was not fraud.
Well, sir, why is it that with several thousands of years of men being on the face of this earth, with all of the technology that we have, with all of the investigative powers that we have, not once any place has anybody ever been able to prove that seances are real.
Oh, yes, it has been proved.
I know, sir. I know with testimony from good souls such as yourself. Scientifically, no.
Yes, it has been proven. It has
Amazing. Well, it's not mentioned in any of the books, sir.
No, yes, it is. You just take a look at the
I know
library.
books may be sold at Christian libraries in the Satan section.
No, I'm not talking about Christian libraries. This is a fact of life. It does exist. I know it exists. Because you haven't seen it doesn't mean to say that it doesn't exist.
Sirs, nobody has seen it.
Oh, yes, they have.
People have thought maybe they did.
No way.
Anything else, caller?
Yes, I want to know why you don't believe in Jesus Christ and in God. Why?
Sir, have you ever listened to this program before?
Yes, sir.
How many times do you think you've listened to it? How many years have you been listening to this program?
Not real long, but enough to understand that you don't, you believe what I've heard from you today. You believe that there is a universal being, right? But there is nobody that controls our mind for good and evil except for ourselves.
That's right, sir, and you've heard me explain it time and time and time again. Tampa, you're on there at 970 WFLA.
Hello, is this Bob?
Yeah.
Hi, Bob. Congratulations. You say some really, really accurate things. I think, and you've been running circles around this poor Mr. Alexander and several callers.
Well, I really, did you have something that you wanted to say?
No, I do. But
okay, because I don't need the compliments.
It's a textual reference probably about 15 minutes ago. I'm not sure what translation of the Hebrew Bible you're using. But in no translation that I've ever read in Hebrew does it mention Satan whatsoever in the second book of Genesis. It says adversary and in the most enigmatic reference. Another point that I'd like to make is you have trouble with people's ideas about the physicality of God, and so did Mr. Alexander about the so-called God with the robe or God with the penis. It doesn't matter where you stop with these ideas about this entity, this being, if you even want to call it a being. The problem is, if God cares about a madman, supposedly, which I think you're very good at saying, supposedly building a chemical weapons plant in the Middle East or starving children in Ethiopia, how could he not care about you masturbating? Where can you draw the line? He must not care about you masturbating or the children, or he must, you should assume, care about each of them.
What's the bottom line here?
I'm sorry?
What's the bottom line here?
The bottom line is that both of you are riddled with contradictions, and you seem to be dancing. No one has anything to say. I've been listening to this program, yes, for not, I would imagine, as long as you have, but at least a couple years. And I think that, come on, don't play with people. Get on to something that people can...
Why don't you check in with WTKN and have the Astrologette read the newspaper to you?
Paul Harvey, with an invitation for you to rendezvous, if you will, with me for Paul Harvey News and Comment and for the rest of the story.
Good day. Hear America's most listened to newscaster, Paul Harvey, weekday mornings at 8:30, afternoons at 12:05 and 5:35 p.m., and Saturdays at 12:05 and 5:30, exclusively here on News Radio 970 WFLA.
2:37 the time. Ben Alexander, my guest. Mr. Alexander will be at the Forest Hills Christian Church tonight and tomorrow night, January 9th and 10th at 7 p.m. That's located at 10902 North Armenia Avenue in Tampa. One line available. It's in Hillsborough. Safety Harbor. Hi, Safety. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yeah, I'd like to say that I think man created God because I don't believe in either one, and they need something to believe in because they're afraid to die, and they think if they're good, they'll go to heaven or wherever.
Well, that's something really stupid that you just said. You do appreciate that. I mean, I hope there's a little bit more beyond your non-belief in the fact that you just don't, you're just too lazy to believe. There's some very strong evidence for man creating God, but to say that I don't believe in God because I don't want to, it's just kind of dumb.
Well, there's not enough proof for me to believe in that.
Okay. Off we go to St. Petersburg. St. You're on the air at 970 WFLA. Fiddy Poo, St. Wouldn't wait, but let's try this St. Petersburg line. Hi. That one wouldn't wait either. Suddenly, Pinellas is available at 461-9352, 461 WFLA. Let's try St. Petersburg there. Hi, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Bob.
Fine.
I got to go along with you about that seance stuff. You know, there was a guy that was on TV not too long ago that proved that was all fake. And this guy here about this protoplasm stuff, I seen he was on TV and he showed these pictures of some green stuff coming out. I think that's fake too.
Mr. Alexander?
It was not green stuff, but that's all right. You can have your opinion. I was there. I know it happened. And Webster's Third New International Dictionary clearly defines ectoplasm. There are two definitions. The first definition, it's a substance which every person has. It's your lifeblood. The second definition is a substance which emanates from a spirit medium which causes poltergeist phenomena.
Well, Mr. Alexander, this may come as a tremendous shock to you, but simply because something is in the dictionary does not mean it actually exists. It simply says this is what we agree that this word means, not whether or not it's true.
Well,
Well,
as far as I'm concerned, I have seen it. I know about it. And I'm not the only one that's written on it. There are many people have done so, and many people have seen this, and parapsychologists have seen it, and it's a fact of life. It does happen.
When you're doing, one of these appearances like you're doing tonight, do people tend to stand up and say, now, wait a second, evangelist, just because it's in the dictionary doesn't mean it's true? Do people ever challenge you?
Well, sure, they challenge me. I have a question and answer time every message that I give. I was hoping that I would be talking strictly on the occult in this particular program, but all that's been happening is everybody's trying to have me prove God. This is what's going on.
I thought we were trying to have you prove Satan.
Or Satan.
Prove demonology. Say some stuff about demonology and all that. I've studied up on all of this, and I've come to a conclusion that Christianity too is faded. Is nothing. It doesn't work. It's only here to keep the people calm, for the government and all this. That's all.
That's fine. If that's your belief, there's nothing I can do about it. That's your belief.
Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yes, I'd like to ask him why it is that the Christians chose a pagan festival to mark the resurrection. That is Easter. In Old English, that's O-E-S-T-E-R, O-E-S-T-R-E, which was a pagan festival that was a feast of the springtime. You see, resurrection is where the plants resurrect.
Well, either Mr. Alexander is going to be familiar with what you're talking about, or he's not going to be. So let's see, Mr. Alexander.
And why it falls on a different day each year.
All I know is that it's a celebration not of a pagan festival, but it's the celebration of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. If it falls on that day, I don't know why. It's just a coincidence. I don't know why.
Well, the definition in any Webster's dictionary of Easter is a pagan festival of old English pagan rites of the feast of the resurrection.
Well, that may be, sir, but very, very few of us, if indeed any of us, have ever sat down and read the entire dictionary. Not North Tampa, just Tampa as it is. Hi, you're on the air.
I'd like to ask Mr. Alexander if he would talk a little bit about the occult. That's the interest that I have. What's the problem with it? How does it work? Just tell me a little about the occult.
Okay, the occult is the unseen spirit world which does exist. And regretfully, there are millions of people, even right now, who are believers that go to these so-called trans-channelists, and what they believe is that they are getting in touch with with their dead loved ones. The truth of it is that they are not getting in touch with their dead loved ones, but demonic spirits. We have these trans-channelists. Shirley MacLaine is the celebrity evangelist for this, and literally millions of people are involved. When I was out in South America, for example, in Brazil, that is the second largest religion to Roman Catholicism, and that is the belief in contacting the dead. I was involved in this for 15 years.
Well, wait a second, isn't that kind of what you do when you pray to a saint contacting the dead?
but they're not contacting the dead.
Well, when you pray to a saint, isn't that what you're trying to do?
You are not supposed to. As far as I'm concerned, personally, as far as Christianity concerned, every Christian is a saint.
There would be a difference in me talking to a saint as compared with what I think I hear you saying, that the demon spirits talk to the person involved in the seance.
Like, for example, showing up at the cemetery on Uncle Harry's birthday and saying, "Gee, Harry, we sure miss you down at the Grange Hall." That would be, trying to contact the dead, right?
Yes, that would be trying to contact.
That would be Satanism.
Yes, it's the same thing. But the way this is done through these so-called trans-channelers. I believe that there are many of them that are frauds, but I also believe that there are those who are for real, and it does happen. But as we were talking before, it was only because of my involvement when I saw my friend many, many times over a period of several years, this ectoplasm emanating from him, and sometimes accidents took place and it would turn to blood. That's when I believed that I was involved in satanic activity. And then, many years later, when I became a Christian, I read about it in the Bible, and I was shocked to realize what I'd been involved in. But at that time when I was doing it, I thought it was of God. And the fact is that...
Well, wait a second. You say when you became a Christian, I therefore assume that during your upbringing, that your parents, never took you to church.
I was born Jewish. And I went to a Hebrew school. Just after my public school, I learned traditional prayers and the Ten Commandments, and that was the end of it, nothing else.
So you were a Messianic Jew?
And then, yes, and then when it came to the time of my bar mitzvah, my suit was in the pawn shop, and I was ashamed because I was in tattered rags, and I never got bar mitzvahed, and that was the end of my Jewish religion.
With all due respect, Mr. Alexander, you are just a classic, a Jew, a Messianic Jew, a Satanist, and a Christian. You will apparently follow anything that comes down the street.
No, that is not true. Just because a person changes, does that make them wrong?
Well, it's an awful lot of changes in one lifetime, don't you think, sir?
No, why not? Why not? We all go through changes. I was born...
Well, I beg your pardon, sir. Most of us do not change our religious beliefs 4 times in one lifetime.
First of all, let me just say this. I was not a Satanist per se. I was a spiritualist, and that is not a Satanist, a follower of Satan. I realize...
Well, I don't understand why it's not... when you do it, it's not satanic, but when somebody else does it, it's satanic. I think you were trying to
Bob, let me
go out from underneath something here.
Let me just finish here. I was born a Jew. I went to a Hebrew school, just an hour or so, 2 or 3 times a week from the age of 11 to 13. I learned just traditional prayers and the Ten Commandments, and that was the end of it. From the age of 13 to, I would say, 26, I had nothing except I went into the army in World War II. I was lucky to come out alive.
Maybe, huh?
Yes.
No, 5.
Right, and then I met somebody when I was a cab driver and got involved in spiritualism. I went there and I studied it for many, many years, and then I saw psychic phenomena take place, and that's why I became a spiritualist. I believed that I was contacting the dead. When I came to America in 1965 to open up a spiritualist organization, I met some people that I knew, because I was originally here for 1 year in 1956 to 57. I went to their church. I met these people. I liked these people. Then they gave me a Bible, which I had never, up to that time, ever in my life read. I opened it, and the very first thing I opened up was in Deuteronomy 18:10, where Moses was warning the children of Israel that one of the things that they mustn't do, and that is contact the spirit world. And then I found 150 scriptures which said the same thing.
Well, also, in that same portion of the book, sir, it also tells you not to live in a house with a pointed roof.
Well, it says a lot of things in the Bible.
Do you live in a house with a pointed roof? Have you ever?
Well, of course. What do you mean by a pointed roof? You really throw me on that one. Please explain it to me.
Explain it to you. It's one of the commandments of God. You don't live in a house with a roof that's pointed. It makes God unhappy, yes. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Good afternoon, Mr. Loss.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Alexander. I'd like to direct my opinion, I guess, to Mr. Alexander. I guess also you, Robert. one believes in God or a God, and as long as it helps them have faith and maybe to do good for people or whatever the reasoning is, then I think that would be fine. And I think that as long as one who does not believe in a God or God and one has faith in himself, so to speak, as opposed to a God, and feels well about it and does good, or the common sense of doing good, whatever that may be, depending on the person, then I think that should be good. It's fine. The only thing I don't care for too much is that I don't think that a person should force his views on someone who doesn't believe, so to speak, and one who doesn't believe force his views on someone who does.
What's that mean?
Well, I think that religion in itself, if someone doesn't believe it, then if it doesn't hurt anyone, then it should be fine. And if one does not believe in God, if it doesn't hurt anyone, or I think that's fine.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah, it's fine with me. 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 990-WFLA. Don Richards standing by with the WFLA News Brief. Donald?
Bob.
Back we are in Newport Richie. Hi, New. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Bob, hello, Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
I've been a Christian for about 6 years now. And sort of like Mr. Alexander, I went through some occult things. I went through the whole gamut, though, of different philosophies, false religions. I read Alan Watts when I was in high school. I became a Rosicrucian when I was 17. Nothing. The thing about being a Christian is once you become a Christian, you know in your heart that it's true.
Well, I beg your pardon. I dare say you knew in your heart that all these other things that you went through were true at the time, too.
Bob, I was never anything.
You're a shopper, man. Come on.
Well, no, I was never anything for more than a month or two, Bob. I've been a Christian for 6 years and a committed Christian. I've done prison ministry. These other things just did not ring true in my heart, and I think that's the litmus test for religion or for true spirituality or true Christianity. It just rang true in my heart. I mean, I did go through everything. I went through astral projection. You name it, and I was through it.
It doesn't surprise me in the least. It's quite common amongst fundamentalist Christians.
Well, I don't know.
Quite common.
That's just a label that the liberal media likes to label people fundamentalist. I don't consider myself.
Wait a second. There's no such thing as the liberal media. It's what you people basically label yourselves as.
Well, I'm certainly not a fundamentalist,
belief in the Bible.
Bob, in the mold of a Jerry Falwell, who puts his foot in his mouth every other time he opens his mouth. But I am a Christian, and I do believe in the Bible, and I do believe the Bible is 100% accurate.
You're a Christian. How could you be a Christian and take a shot like that at Jerry Falwell?
Well, because the guy,
Not a good Christian, I see.
With responsibility.
No charity, no love, no forgiveness.
No, I love him. I forgive him. He makes mistakes. We all have feet of clay, Bob. That's one thing about Christians. We do forgive each other. We do forgive other people.
Oh, you have to forgive each other, I suppose, when you constantly take shots at each other.
Bob, just a moment, Bob. You did say that it's common among Christians astral projection. That's not true.
No, I said no such thing, Mr. Alexander. What I said was shopping in every ballpark for religion.
Bob, St. Augustine said one time...
I don't believe in astral projection.
There's a God-shaped vacuum in every man, okay? Until you find Christ, until Christ fills your heart with the truth and the peace that is in him, you're going to search for things. I was a searcher.
Well, I'm not searching for anything.
Not well.
You're the one that seems to be the searcher.
Well, Bob, you...